Meet my coaching student, Assad. He's a part-time Amazon seller making over $7,000 a month in profit with a 9-to-5 job. A lot of people tell me I can't be a successful Amazon seller because I have a 9-to-5 or I'm in college. That's completely not true. And Ashad's a great example of how you can make that happen and be successful even as a part-time seller. So in this video, we're going to dig into his entire story and how he became successful as a part-time seller. Also, it was recently my birthday, and on my social media pages, I ran a $500 off sale for my coaching program. Realized I didn't talk about it in any of my YouTube videos. So if you want to save 500 bucks on my coaching program, now's the last chance to apply for that at the link in the description. Q4 gets kicked off in 2 weeks. And if you want my help maximizing Q4 with unparalleled one-on-one access to me, you'll have my personal phone number, 3 group coaching calls a week, a ton of awesome content. You want to be around other Amazon sellers crushing the game. Also just connect you with other Amazon sellers in small, tight groups. And you want to get on Zoom one-on-one with me to live source together, take a look at the link in the description at the coaching program application, put your information and see if you qualify. And now into the interview with Ashad. What's going on, Ashad? Welcome to the channel, man.
What's up, Wunk? How we doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. So the cool thing is you have a unique case where you finished up college and pretty much had every reason to not go start an online business, like getting going with your first job or two, right? A lot of people will make up the excuse that they don't have time or anything like that, but you're a pretty cool case, man, where in the past couple months, starting out late April, early May, man, you've been able to get to a full-time income on Amazon part-time, right? So what was the profit specifically for August?
I think around 7K is what we had.
Exactly. Right. So absolutely not bad for a new skill that you're starting to learn for yourself, basically. And I remember when you were just getting going, you said it was right around May 1st, basically, right?
Yeah, literally the start of May. I think probably the last week of April, but May
Yeah.
1st, everything started going through.
Because I remember DMing you on Instagram and you were like, I think you had said you were in Southeast PA. I was like, all right, man, let's get to it and everything. I know, I think we even have some mutuals just in real life from the past and everything. But what in general just made you want to get into selling on Amazon?
So I knew about selling on Amazon like before. I just never knew where to start, right? I saw a lot of stuff come up, and you may not know, but Will Riviera was kind of one of the first people I saw on Instagram, and then you came up, and I was like, okay, I've seen drop shipping, I've seen Amazon, I've seen all these online business. I'm like, all right, where should I start first? And I think I saw you come up on my Instagram, and that's when I was like, all right, let me see, your videos. I watched your YouTube videos. I kind of like a whole month of studying, and I was like, all right, let me jump into it. I felt like this was a business where you can grow fast, but also it's like a really good business in general for long term if you do it right. So that's why I kind of decided to get into Amazon.
Sure, absolutely, man. Yeah, so just in general, man, like a lot of people will say they don't have time or whatever, and you've absolutely jumped in this. You said you studied a little while just getting into selling Amazon. What was it like just building up that initial momentum and getting those first couple sales? Because you started learning for like a month. Then what was the timeline once you like really got going to starting to get that initial momentum and first sales?
Honestly, I think it was after our first call, right? So you and I had a first call, and I kind of built like more confidence in myself after that. And also, you tell me to post more on Twitter and be more active. And that kind of started building my momentum where I started obviously buying more inventory. And the first thing I did was merchant fulfilled, right? So I saw the money turn quick. So that's where I was like, okay, got to keep going. And that's where everything started rising up.
Yeah, and that's the key is you said there's a lot of obviously people talk about this on the internet and everything. There's a lot of kind of conflicting advice. Me personally, I love the idea of starting out small, low risk, building proof of concept, right? And merch fill is a great way to do that, man, right? Because if you're a beginner watching this and you do only Amazon FBA, it's going to take a while for the inventory to actually get to you and then get to Amazon, specifically the one that really takes a while. But with merch fulfilled, once you get it from the supplier, from the website, which only take like 3 to 5 days typically for it to arrive to you, occasionally a little bit more, a little bit less, you can get that listed immediately in your store and actually learn quicker. So not only can you, just get better cash flow and everything, but you can also test your quantities a lot later too. So talk about just kind of further into the merch filled side of things and how that's been really helpful for you.
So recently, my cash flow has been insane, right? So I get it, and I list it before it even arrives. So when I see that something's like on the way to my house, I list it before I arrive, and half of the time, half of it sells. And the one thing I've noticed is my cash flow has been really good compared to FBA because my FBA shipping times have been very bad recently. I think we all know how
Especially
like
back to school
it's
time,
like
warehouse
yeah.
getting
So
picked out.
like
Yeah.
the merchant fulfilled has been a life changer for especially cash flow. Like if you aren't merchant fulfilling, I think everyone should be doing a little bit of merchant fulfilling just for cash flow in general.
Yeah, and it depends specifically what you're selling because obviously not every listing is going to be merchant fulfilled friendly specifically. So, what have you done in terms of like on the product research side of things? As a beginner, still, 5, 6 months in, man, in terms of finding merchant fulfilled specific products, like what's been the strategy behind that? Because that can be a really, tough thing for beginners.
I think it's mainly the Keepa and also SellerAmp, right? So you look at the data, you see what people are merchant fulfilled, how many do you have merchant fulfilled versus FBA, and that's where you can gauge, do I buy this FBM or FBA? And also looking at your profitability, right? Because there's some items that may be FBM, FBA as well, but FBA you're making more profit, so it may be smarter to go FBA. But then there's some listings where FBM is more profitable, so you'd go FBM. So that's kind of how I look. I just look at the data and see the listings how they look.
And the big thing with that is remembering to actually scroll down on SellerAmp and toggle over to the FBM numbers. If you want to, just a quick guide on how to know the specific FBM numbers, if you're watching this, just go to howtofbm.com. There's a little shipping cost for FBM guide for what you're going to put in on the FBM cost specifically on SellerAmp, right? And it's really important in terms of merch filled. An easy way to standardize that as a beginner is just list everything merch filled initially and let the data especially tell you. But like Ashad was saying, you can also see using the buy box statistics on Keepa and then the offer summary on SellerAmp, right? That little panel you can activate, right? Whether or not people are successfully FBMing a product. And if they are, there's a good chance you probably can too, right? Using 0-day handling time and some of the different features that go into that as well. So has it really just been online arbitrage the whole time, or any retail arbitrage, any wholesale, man?
So right now it's been OA, and I just started dabbling in the wholesale, like probably like 2%, maybe 3% into wholesale, but mainly it's been OA. I just love OA because when that sale comes and you have a bunch of capital to run up, you just run up the number to get all the inventory, and it's also like there's no lead time, right? So with OA, maybe it takes about a week to get to your house if you're doing merchant fulfilled, and you can instantly list it as you mentioned earlier, right? And your sales can start rolling the second it comes in versus FBA. I mean, in FBA, you send it to your prep center, you take it there. And the prep centers are really fast, right? 24 to 48 turnaround time. So I just like how OA has been because there's no real lead time.
Yeah, well, that was
But
a good point, especially about the lead time side of things, man. Not to interrupt you, as well, but like RA, there's literally zero lead time. You pick it up in store, right? But there's the least scalability. OA is probably the perfect balance for beginners, right? And obviously, you can do all three if you want to, right? And then wholesale, longest lead time, longest time for the product to actually get to you, most scalability though, right? And the cool thing is, in your case, man, you actually live in, Philadelphia area where I'm from as well, right? Phenomenal location for retail arbitrage if you wanted to do a ton of it. The cool thing is in your case, you haven't really needed to, it sounds like, which is awesome, right? And that's the whole part of doing this stuff is to build skills, meet cool people, make money, and have flexibility. For example, you can go do retail arbitrage if you ever needed to. Sounds like you haven't needed too much outside of some occasional pickup orders and stuff, man, which is another
yeah.
phenomenal method as well, too. So the biggest thing beginners struggle with, right, is product sourcing, product research, man. So what specific kind of tips and tricks or methods have you really used for product research?
To be honest with you, it's mainly trusting the keeper, right? So you have to look at the velocity and the offer counts and also look at the price. That's all I really look at. And when I see that the price is pretty stable, there's good oscillation in the seller count, that's how I buy. I honestly
Yeah,
just look at
and
things.
yeah, especially on the methodology side of things. Like, you doing like a lot of manual sourcing, or you're like looking at people's storefronts? Like, what's the vibe with that?
I do a lot of storefront stalking. So a lot of storefront stalking, and I kind of learn what websites they're from, and I note that down, right? So I'll storefront stock, see like these items. I'm like, okay, they're not on sale right now. Let me put it on maybe something like a pinger. I forget what it's called, but you can ping certain items on certain websites for when they come on sale. So I do things like that, and also put it in my notes, and I'll check it like on a daily basis, like 5, 10 minutes, just to see if that product has came on sale or not. If it has, then if I'm profitable, then I'll rip it.
Yeah, and you get a really good gauge over time of learning different retailer sales cycles. Sometimes I'll even open up an item on Safari on my phone and just refresh it from time to time, both for restocks or prior to knowing, a sales cycle for a different retailer specifically, that there'll be some good stuff that comes out of it. Interestingly enough, like one brand that's actually an auto engage brand that a lot of the students are doing that are newer, right? They recently ran a big sale. I didn't even know this website had sales, right? But because I was keeping tabs on different stuff, I ended up learning that, right? In terms of like just kind of restock monitors, there's a couple good ways to do it if anyone's wondering. Some sites will let you put in your email to get notified. I think Shields is one of those. And then there's a couple good ways to get notified of stuff in terms of like when a retailer changes like the web page essentially. And distill.io is a good one specifically
Yeah.
for for that. So the key is, man, when you storefront stock, you're going to find good listings, period. You're going to find stuff that sells quick. Now, the hard part tends to be finding those items profitable, right? So talk about from your specific perspective, what are the discounting methods and really just kind of the extreme couponing side of OA that you've specifically found a lot of success with?
Gift cards. Gift cards have been a big game changer for me, where when I started implementing gift cards, I've noticed one, items are becoming profitable, and two, they're becoming more profitable, right? And also we have our cashback extension that's extra money for you right there, right? So you can count that. You don't wouldn't want to count that in your buy cost, but you want to think of that as, okay, if something happens, I have this as a backup, right? And then also website has their own coupon. Sometimes when you open a website, it'll be like, oh, so put your phone number and we'll give you 10% off your first order. And there's way, as we know, to loop that. So I didn't think like that, things like that.
Yeah, text now specifically is a good way to loop that for anyone who's curious too. As well. And basically the whole idea behind coupons and sales and gift cards is that very few items are going to be profitable at the average price, at the advertised price just sitting on a website. Now, occasionally they will be, but very rare they will be. And if they are, they tend to be way easier to find for newer sellers, leading to more competition and more price tanking, right? Meanwhile, right, if you're paying as little as possible and utilizing gift cards and cash back, not necessarily that you're going to add the cash back and the profitability, but it doesn't hurt, right? Coupons and sales, gift cards, I do like to add in specifically right there. It's going to make your life a lot easier too, right? In terms of just making your life easier. So you have a cool, interesting case because you have a remote 9 to 5, a good Amazon business, and you got some other just business stuff going on in general too. So you want to kind of break down what other businesses you have going on, and then way more importantly, like how the heck you manage all the time. You know what I mean? Because that's a big thing. Like people are like, do I really want to start that side hustle? I feel like I don't got time, right? And as we know, as fellow young kings, we make time for what's important to ourselves, right? But it just in general, man, like tell us about your other businesses and then how you're managing everything.
Yeah, so I also have like a social media marketing agency. So me and two friends work with small businesses in the Philadelphia area, and we honestly just create content for them, right? So we handle their social media pages, and we post content for them. That's my other business that I've been doing with my 9 to 5 and Amazon as well. And with time management, honestly, it's best way to put it to you is like, how bad do you want it, right?
Oh,
That's
true.
kind of that's the best way I could put it for you is that, the way I think is like you have to break down your time into certain aspects, right? So if you work out, right? All right, put a certain time in the morning to work out. So you get that, not like get out of the way, but you work out when you wake up because that's when you're probably like the most, I would say, like focused, in my opinion, like with working out wise. Work out in the morning, I come back, I start my 9 to 5. So I kind of have blocks, right? So I'll
Mm.
work like 2 to 3 hours on my 9 to 5, and then I'll give some time to Amazon, and I'll go back to my 9 to 5, and I'll just have time blocks. Because when you're working on something for straight, 8, 9 hours, it's just you can get distracted, right? So having those time blocks to where you're doing one thing at one point for some amount of hours, and then you're hopping onto another, it refreshes your brain. So I go from looking at my corporate job to sourcing. And then, my brain's refreshed now, so I can go back to do my corporate job.
Yeah, and in general too, like obviously I empathize in that we're, young guys with, a big lack of responsibility compared to some people. I completely get that, but either way, all you can do is the best with what you have. Right. Personally, on my side of things, I'm a huge to-do list guy, right? The night before, plan tomorrow today. I heard that from a guy on YouTube a couple years ago and everything, which is really, really helpful too. So talk about what it's been like really seeing big progress over back to school, right? Because Q4 is coming up. Q4 is bigger than back to school, right? But specifically in your case, this was your first kind of big seasonal opportunity. So talk about what you learned the past month or so, seeing demand massively increase as parents are buying stuff for their kids, for soccer season and for getting back to school and everything like that.
Yeah, so I guess one thing I want to point out is my network, right? So I built a core network in my first 2 to 3 months of doing Amazon, and that's really what helped me scale back to school. Because without my network, I don't even think I'd be in this position. So with back to school, it was just buying a lot more inventory than you usually would, right? So like something I think you've mentioned before is like instead of buying 10 of a product, buy 20. Don't buy the 10 that you used to buy because during the back to school or Q4, the item is going to sell faster. So that's another thing I took into account where during back to school, I bought more quantity than I did before. And that's really what helped me scale. Like I think I did double to triple what I did in July. And that's really what helped me grow the past 4 months and also this month as well.
Yeah, and you're still brand new to this stuff, in the grand scheme of things. Like you haven't even been through a Q4 yet. Like my personal advice in terms of anyone watching this, right? Where, there's really only two ways to grow the business, right? And they work hand in hand, right? But it's sell more of what you're already selling, buy heavier on proven listings, right? Obviously not taking on an unnecessary risk, but once something's proven, right? Or finding adjacent leads and finding more products. So you brought up a good point in terms like figuring out where items come from, right? The cool thing is most brands, they're either super small brands that only come from the brand website or one supplier, or big brands that come from boatloads of different websites, right? And they both have their pros and cons specifically right there, but that's, how you build a good arbitrage business in general too. So you brought up a really good point there in terms like getting in the community, getting around other sellers, right? What does that actually look like and how do you actually do it? Because that's a, ridiculously important thing that we kind of all know we need to do, but that is, very hard for a lot of people on the networking side of things.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is putting yourself out there, right? So when I first started, I was kind of scared to put myself out there, and I posted a video of an introduction. And after that introduction video, I just met a lot of people through that, right? So it's mainly just like constantly being on what we have Twitter, X, mainly being on that contact, just random cold DMs. I cold DM so many people in the Amazon community, just saying, hey, I'm new to the community, I want to build a friendship here. Like I'm not only looking at a business transaction, right? I want to build a friendship with these people, and that's literally all I've done is just cold DMs, just talking to anyone that you can see that you see, and you're like, okay, I'd like to talk to this person. That's what I've done, and you can probably ask anyone. That's literally what I've done at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly, right, and they take a look at your profile and everything, and it's really it's fairly counterintuitive when you think about it initially. It's like, all right, like, doesn't really make sense that I would wanna talk to my competition, but the key is, like, it's such a big pie, and you're just gonna have a lot more of a worthwhile time if you find some cool people to work with, which literally it could be in the comments of this video, for example, too, and everything, man. So super impressed with what you've done so far. What type of profit numbers do you think you can do in December? Because that's, like, the big one in terms, like, scaling quick. November's gonna be a big month as well.
My goal is to do 40K profit in December.
Boom.
I
So
would say
that's
Q4 around 60 to 70 is my goal.
yeah. So that would be around 200K of revenue, right? At the 200K of revenue, 20% profit. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be right in there specifically, right there. So yeah, man, it's time to get after it. Where can people follow you on social media if they want to see more of your journey, man?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm Ashad Rathod, and then on Instagram, I'm Ashad_Rathod.
Boom. So
You can
y'all
probably
check out the man right there. Absolutely. It's going to be linked in the description right there, doing big things. Also, just a general, very nice guy, as you guys saw in this video. So check out my boy's page right there. Super impressed with everything you got going on. Thanks for coming on, man. Hope this video is helpful, guys. Super proud of Assad and everything he's doing. If you guys are looking for more personalized one-on-one help, check out the coaching program application link in the description if you want to save $500 off as well. Let us know any questions and see you guys in the next one.